No one who has been paying attention to the growth of radical Islam in Britain should have been surprised that the terrorist who stood over murdered American journalist James Foley was reported to have a London accent. Over 1,000 British Muslims are now fighting for the Islamic State, and more are joining every day.
The key thing to realize about British fighters in Syria is that they're not there to take a backseat role. They are very much at the forefront of this conflict.
Britain is now a major exporter of terrorists, the result of multiculturalism. There have been warning signs for years. This was a Muslim protest in London CBN News brought to viewers more than 8 years ago. Today, Britain has functioning Sharia courts, and Sharia patrols enforce Islamic law on some of its streets.
Remove yourself away from the mosque. Go away from the mosque now. Muslim patrol.
This is a Muslim area and you're not wanted around here.
Islamic halal food is everywhere, and Islam is today the fastest growing religion in the UK.
I actually gave up a modelling career for Islam, and I'm happy. That's the best choice I've made ever.
Even though Muslims are a relatively small minority in Britain, there is a feeling among some British that their nation is being handed over to Islam, that the government doesn't care about promoting traditional British values, Judeo-Christian values, either because it doesn't believe in them anymore or because it doesn't want to be labeled as intolerant. British civilization has been a gift to the world, but the British don't care so much about their own civilization anymore, and it's into this vacuum that Islam is advancing. Sure, the British still care about their queen and tradition, but radical Muslims have been allowed and even encouraged to build a parallel society within this officially Christian nation.
The reason we have capitulated in the West so much to Islam is self-hatred. There's an underlying self-hatred of our own societies, of our own cultures.
Anne-Marie Waters is a former leftist who runs Sharia Watch UK.
We've got this multiculturalism, this dangerous multiculturalism in Britain, which is killing women, killing girls, and the left not only doesn't say anything about it, but continues to push for it as a good, even though it knows, even though it can see that it's killing girls. We know for a fact that there are mosques in this country where little girls of 8, 9, 10 years of age are being married, quote-unquote married, to older men, and being raped.
When British soldier Lee Rigby was decapitated in the streets of London, one of the first things Prime Minister David Cameron said was that the murder was not because of Islam. After the Foley decapitation, Cameron said it again.
We come back to this, it's only a tiny minority of extremists, it's got nothing to do with Islam, but the point is, this stuff is coming directly from the Quran, from the Hadith.
Muslim immigrant sex grooming gangs were covered up by the British police for 20 years. The British government's weak response to radical Islam has led to the formation of citizen groups and protest movements, like the English Defence League and Britain First. Britain First goes into the street to confront Sharia patrols and has horrified the British establishment for having the nerve to go into mosque to pass out Bibles to Muslims.
And now, there's a nice British Army Bible. Spread the word of Jesus Christ around Bradford. Amen. Jesus Christ our Lord, we want to save you from hell. We reject the false prophet Muhammad and read the Bible.
The chairman of Britain First is Paul Golding.
This is a Christian country. Our heritage is Christian. We take it very seriously. We hold it dear. So giving out Christian Bibles in a Christian country on British streets to people who are British citizens, we don't see anything wrong with that. Have you looked around for any threats at all?
But when we were with Golding, he was dodging the police, who seemed to view him as a troublemaker. The British government is going to have to decide whether it cares more about being viewed as tolerant or about stopping terrorism, because the whole world is now paying the bill for Britain's experiment in multiculturalism.
And we have got to start dealing with this. We've got to say, look, we have freedom of speech. You can't beat up women. We won't stone people to death for their sex lives. You have to accept that, or you can't live here.
When a jihadist slaughters someone in broad daylight, citing the Quran and screaming Allahu Akbar, the point he's trying to make is usually pretty clear. And yet, after almost every terrorist attack in the West, the media and politicians and police announce, we're still searching for a motive. Anyone seen a motive lying around in all these strewn body parts? Earlier this week, after two jihadists butchered a British soldier named Lee Rigby on a London street while screaming Allahu Akbar, one of them wanted to make sure his motive couldn't be missed, not even by the media and politicians and police. So he stopped to clarify things for us.
Yeah. The only reason we have killed this man today is because Muslims are dying daily by British soldiers, and this British soldier is one.
So British soldiers are killing Muslims in Muslim lands. What does this have to do with killing Lee Rigby?
We are forced by the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah, through many ayat throughout the Quran, that we must fight them as they fight us, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
That was Michael Adebolajo, a convert to Islam and a former associate of Anjum Chowdhury. He's given us two reasons for killing Rigby. One, British soldiers are killing Muslims, and two, the Quran commands Muslims to fight those who fight them. Now, his first claim is obviously correct. British soldiers are fighting at least some people who believe in Islam. But not everyone agrees with his second claim, that the Quran commands Muslims to fight those who fight them. Just ask world-renowned Quran scholar and Islamic theologian, Prime Minister David Cameron.
There is nothing in Islam that justifies this truly dreadful act.
Well, I can think of something in Islam that would justify the attack. It's called the Quran. In the clip we saw, Adebolajo refers specifically to Surah At-Tawbah, that's chapter 9 of the Quran, which is filled with commands to fight unbelievers. Surah 9, verse 29, fight those who do not believe in Allah. Surah 9, verse 73, O Prophet, strive hard against the unbelievers and the hypocrites and be unyielding to them. Surah 9, verse 111, surely Allah has bought of the believers their persons and their property for this, that they shall have the garden. They fight in Allah's way, so they slay and are slain. Believers, i.e. Muslims, fight in Allah's way, so they slay and are slain. What did Adebolajo do? He killed someone and then got shot by police. But I'm sure it had nothing to do with the Quran explicitly commanding him to kill and get killed in the very chapter he cited as his reason for killing and waiting around for police to show up and shoot him. I invite everyone to read chapter 9 of the Quran, the last major chapter that Muhammad delivered to his followers. It's basically one long call to jihad and one long condemnation of Muslims who refuse to fight unbelievers. Surah 9, verses 81 and 94 to 95 even say that Muslims who make excuses for refusing to fight the unbelievers will burn in hell, which is probably why Adebolajo said that the Quran forces him to kill.
We are forced by the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah, forced by the Quran, forced by the Quran, forced by the Quran.
Prime Minister Cameron doesn't seem to understand any of this, but maybe Boris Johnson, the mayor of London, has a better grasp of jihad.
It is completely wrong to blame this killing on the religion of Islam. But it is also equally wrong to try to draw any link between this murder and British foreign policy or the actions of British forces who are risking their lives abroad for the sake of freedom.
According to Mayor Johnson, Rigby's execution had nothing to do with Islam and nothing to do with the British Army fighting Muslims. Apparently, Mayor Johnson hasn't read Surah 5, verse 33 of the Quran, which says, "The punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His Apostle and strive to make mischief in the land is only this, that they should be murdered, or crucified, or their hands and their feet should be cut off on opposite sides, or they should be imprisoned. This shall be as a disgrace for them in this world, and in the hereafter they shall have a grievous chastisement." What's the penalty for making mischief in a Muslim land? If it's something serious, the penalty is death. Who was Lee Rigby? He was a machine gunner in the British Army. He had a tour in Afghanistan, and more recently, he was recruiting more soldiers to go to places like Afghanistan. By the way, bringing a non-Muslim military into a Muslim land to interfere in Muslim affairs is the most extreme form of mischief making, according to Islam. The penalty is death. The Quran even tells Muslims how to kill in order to spread fear. In Surah 8, verse 12, Allah declares, "I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore, strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip of them." Strike off their heads and their fingertips. Don't just kill them, mutilate them. But Rigby's beheading and mutilation had nothing to do with Islam, right, Mayor Johnson? How could this be any simpler? There are only 2 ingredients in this recipe for terrorism. Take 1 cup of the Quran, add a tablespoon of mischief making, stir together, and wait for the attack. So, Mayor Johnson, saying that the teachings of Islam and British soldiers fighting in Afghanistan have nothing to do with the massacre of Lee Rigby is like saying that flour and sugar had nothing to do with the biscuits you were probably munching on for your afternoon tea, while Rigby was being slaughtered like an animal in the city that elected you mayor.
The fault lies wholly and exclusively in the warped and deluded mindset of the people who did it.
Yeah, you and Mr. Cameron are the authorities on deluded mindsets. Do you guys have any strategy at all for dealing with terrorism in the UK?
We will never give in to terror or terrorism in any of its forms.
You'll never give in to terror? You already have, Mr. Cameron. The moment you decided to protect an ideology that calls for the annihilation of your civilization and the violent subjugation of your citizens, you gave in to terror. Now, if you want to protect Muslims who had nothing to do with the attack, that's one thing. That is part of your job description, and I'd be happy to help you protect individuals who don't support jihad, Muslim or non-Muslim. But you're protecting an ideology, one that commands its adherents, whether they know it or not, to brutally murder people like Lee Rigby. Instead of using your position to promote open discussion of this ideology, you use it to tell millions of people that anyone who obeys the Quran's clear commands to kill has somehow betrayed the religion that ordered him to kill.
This was not just an attack on Britain and on the British way of life. It was also a betrayal of Islam. A betrayal of Islam, a betrayal of Islam, a betrayal of Islam.
There's definitely a betrayal here, Prime Minister Cameron. But it's not a betrayal of Islam.
Allah is the Satan, not God. God created the angels, and the man. Satan lied to some of the angels, and made them demons. And Satan lied to Adam and Eve, and made them mankind. Allah is Satan, not God. Quran, Az-Zariyat 51:56. And I, Allah, made the demons and mankind that they should worship me, alone. Quran, Az-Zariyat 51:56. Muhammad told his wife about seeing the devil in a cave, but his Catholic wife told him that this must be Angel Gabriel, and that he must be a prophet. We can't deny the truth. Muslim is an Arabic word which means submit not to God, but to Allah. All Muslims are going to hellfire. Quran, Surah 19:70-72. May Jesus the Lord guide you and protect you from cultic antichrist teachings like Muhammad's lies.